Hello guys, this week we'll be making an emulsion sauce, and in order to make an emulsion sauce there are three important things you have to have. You have to have one liquid in tiny droplets, one liquid between the droplets, and an emulsifier. In our butter sauces, the emulsifier and the tiny droplets are both in the butter. Cookwise explains that there is 81% fat and 19% water and milk solids in the butter. The milk solids and protein and the milk solids are protein and emulsifiers all together. You'll see why this is the one with the more milk is going to be a little bit thicker than the one without. So let's get started. In our Beurre Blanc sauce, I know I'm saying that wrong, so just bear with me. I'm going to be using 5 medium shallots. They are going to be chopped. A third of a cup of, I use Sauvignon Blanc instead of, because that's what I had on hand, which is a medium dry wine. 1/4 cup of white wine vinegar, half cup of heavy or whipping cream. I just chose heavy cream. 3 pounds, which is 3 sticks of butter, softened. They were just to room temperature, and then 1/4 teaspoon of salt. Okay guys, we're going to begin by placing the shallots, the wine, and the vinegar in the pan, and we're going to warm that up to a boil. And then you're going to want to try and reduce that to 1/4 of a cup of liquid. In the Beurre Blanc's temperature is going to be most important because the milk proteins join together at a much lower temperature than, say, like an egg yolk would. So you can't get it too hot, but if you get it too cold, then the fat and the butter clumps back up. During boiling, I kept it, I don't know if you can really see, it was kind of hard to see because of the steam and stuff. During boiling, it stayed at about 200 degrees Fahrenheit, and that was throughout the boiling, throughout cream and all that. It was about at 200 degrees Fahrenheit. You'll see later when I take it off, it drops significantly. After you get the reduction to about 1/4 a cup of liquid, you're going to add the cream and you're going to continue to boil and then try to reduce that down again to another 1/4 a cup of liquid. I also again took the temperature at this time and it was still at the 150. It dropped to about 150 degrees when I added the cream, and it took, by the time, it didn't take very long for it to get back up to the 200. You'll see towards the end the temperature stays, like I said, at that around 200 during the boiling. Once you get it back reduced to the 1/4 cup of liquid, you're going to remove it from the heat and whisk in the chunks of butter. You have to continually whisk it until all the butter is added. If for whatever reason, when you've done adding the butter, you can put it back on the heat to melt the butter a little bit. But this is going to be the most important time when it comes to temperature. After I was done adding the butter, I did put it back on the stove for a quick second. So during the time of adding the butter, I made sure, and once I got it all in there, I put my thermometer in there, or tried to throughout the time. At least it was very difficult to do all of it, and it stayed at a constant 130, 135 temperature throughout this process. Even when I put it back on the burner, I had turned off the burner, so it was just enough heat to keep it at that 135, but then also melt the butter at the same time. You'll be able to see towards the end as well, this is a very thick sauce with all of the butter and the cream, but it's super tasty, and it wasn't really that hard to make. Overall, it probably took me about 15 minutes to get it all done, which was much less than the second sauce. Again, you can't really see the temperature there, but it's at about 130 right then, and like I said, turned out pretty well. Thanks, guys. For the puree rogue sauce, we use 5 medium shallots that we pureed in a little bit of the wine. 1 bottle, 700 milliliters of red wine. I used just random Cabernet. 3/4 pound, again 3/6 butter, very saucy. It was at room temperature, cubed up. Half a teaspoon of salt and a half a teaspoon of fresh squeezed lemon juice. I did use fresh squeezed lemons because I had a few, and why not? So you're going to begin by, like I said, you blended the shallots and a little bit of the wine. You're going to boil the pureed shallots and the rest of the wine in a large, heavy saucepan and reduce it to about 1/3 of the cup. In the book, it says this may take as long as 10 minutes. Oh my God, that is such an understatement. This sauce took me almost an hour. I had it on the same temperature as the first one, but that was probably not such a good idea. I had to turn it up twice. To about 8. So, I mean, it doesn't hurt it that it had to simmer for so long or boil for so long in order for it to reduce. But as you can see, like, as we jumped over in this little break, that was after boiling it for 20 minutes at least, and it still had not done anything. It was just kind of getting warm. So I turned it up a little bit, and it took probably another 15 minutes for it to really start to boil. You'll see that here in a little bit. Overall boiling time to get it from the full bottle down to a close of the 1/3 liquid, it took me 45 minutes to get this stuff boiled, guys. Like, it was intense. I've never thought it would take so long. But the exchange for that in me having to boil it so long was the fact that the sauce had a ton of flavor. I mean, you could really get the flavor from the Cabernet. You didn't get a lot of the alcohol, which was really nice. It did kick out all of the alcohol, and you really tasted the shallots. So that was a good part of it. Time was worth it, but it did definitely take a long time. Like, look, this video is sped up right now, and I'm still talking, and it still isn't even boiling yet. That's how long it took. I really wasn't lying when I said that it took forever to boil, as you can tell. But we finally got it going, and it's just a little bit longer that it took for it to get there, but I wanted to add it. In the Béarnaise rogue sauce, temperature is just not as important because there isn't as many milk proteins, but still removing it from the heat and adding room temperature butter is important to keep it above that 130, which is when, if you drop it below the 130, is when the butter reforms together. With the rogue sauce, we did puree the shallots with a little wine, which produced the thicker sauce. As you could tell through its boiling, you can just see the shallots like attach to everything. You can see it on my whisk, you can see it on the sides of the bowl. It definitely did add to the emulsification, even though we didn't have as many emulsifiers. Like I said, the sauce took forever. I did write down finally, it was 46 minutes exact that it took me to make this. I did cut out quite a bit of the footage. Like I said, the emulsifier did help. It made it a little bit thicker, but this sauce was definitely not near as thick as the first one. You'll be able to see that when I run the spoon through it at the end, and it did take a long time, but I definitely liked this one better than the other one. I did not like the tartness of the vinegar in the first one, and I think in this one, if I were to make it again and do it with steaks, I wouldn't add as much lemon juice, maybe like a smidge less, but it was still really good, and although it took forever, it was worth it. Thanks guys, hope y'all enjoyed it.